When I first started smoking a pipe, my internet habits went through a big change. Buying tobacco can be easy, but it can also lead to feelings of anticipation, dissatisfaction, failure, and resentment. Waking up in the middle of the night, wondering if that next blend will be satisfying, can be destructive to the rest of your day. You have TAD, Tobacco Acquisition Disorder. All is not lost. Finally, there is an answer. Trade Tobaccozonia. Trade Tobaccozonia is a low-cost, low-frustration way to cope with TAD. Trade Tobaccozonia has been shown to cause sudden and regular visits to the post office, irregular heartbeat associated with anticipation, trouble being patient, waiting on packages, loss of Ziploc baggies, and in many cases, it has resulted in a relationship with Mel the Garbage Man Piper. Trade Tobaccozonia. Finally, you can relax. Ask your doctor or a YTPC member today about Trade Tobaccozonia. RoadGlideSully here, checking in from the once independent Lone Star State. So today, as you've probably already figured out, I want to talk about tobacco trades and specifically how you can use trading samples with folks to increase the number of tobaccos that you can try over a short period of time and a heck of a lot cheaper than you can by buying all the tins. So to do this, I first want to start kind of walk you through a little bit of kind of the phases that I've gone through. I consider myself a fairly new pipe smoker. It's been about 7 or 8 months. I'll probably consider myself a new smoker until I hit the year mark. That's just me. Everybody's probably a little bit different. But I've gone through phases in my tobacco acquisition, and some of these might kind of resonate with you. My first phase was I would buy as much bulk tobacco as I could. And when I say bulk tobacco, I don't mean that I was buying pounds and pounds of tobacco. What I was doing is I was buying samples. The good thing about bulk tobacco is that the internet sites, smokingpipes.com, tobaccopipes.com, Four Noggins, Pipes and Cigars, they will all break those bulk tobaccos up into fairly small samples, as little as 1 ounce. And that is very valuable when you're trying to sample a lot of different tobaccos. So I went through that phase, and I used that phase primarily to figure out what kinds of tobaccos I like. What I found out personally is that from a hierarchy perspective, I like vapors, which are Virginia Periques. I like straight Virginias. I like English, and then aromatics. And the interesting thing is that is in reverse order of how I went through that phase. I started buying a lot of samples of aromatics. I next went to Englishes, which I don't recommend. Most folks go to Virginias and Virginia Periques first, but I went to Englishes. Then I went to straight Virginias, and then I found vapors. And vapors by far are my favorite. Bayou Morning is my everyday tobacco, and it is a vapor. It's actually pretty high in Perique, I think 25%. I really like that flavor, and it took me a lot of samples to figure that out. And then after that phase was over, once I kind of established what I like, what I didn't like, or what I like more or less, there's nothing I really don't like, I jumped into the phase of trying to build a cellar and trying to buy, tins of tobacco, bulk tobacco, but I started kind of by buying the bulk. I kept buying the bulk tobaccos that I liked, only I was buying more of it. So I was buying, 4 to 6 ounces at a time. And in some cases with Bayou Morning, I was buying an entire pound at a time, and mainly because I was smoking it. Then I started buying tins. And I quickly realized, now I've actually purchased quite a few tins, but I quickly realized that buying tins can get really, really expensive, especially when you haven't tried them. You watch a couple of reviews, you read a review or two on something, you're like, oh, that sounds good, I want to try it. So you buy a tin because it's now sold in bulk. And while depending on your pocketbook, you can continue to go down that path, what I found was that trading samples with other YTPC members was a great way to try a bunch of new tobaccos without straining my wallet. I wouldn't have to buy a 2-ounce tin just to try a couple of bowls of that tobacco. So I found several YTPC members that I've actually become good friends with through house parties, through Zooms, etc. And we have traded, done a number of sample trades. And what is a sample trade? Well, typically, you package up some tobacco. It's usually not this much, but you package up some tobacco in a baggie. You put it into a priority mail at the USPS, and cost about $7.50 to ship it. And what you're doing is you're taking all the tins of tobaccos that you've opened and sampled your own tobacco, your own samples, and you have all this left over. What you're doing is you're taking that and you're using that as trade. And you can trade full tins, but I find that it's personally it's better. If it's something I know I want, then I don't mind trading a tin. But what I like to do is trade samples, because that gives me the opportunity to try a bunch of tobacco. So in front of me, I have a box. I'm going to show you what's in this box. So this is kind of the system that I've adopted. This is not shoes, but it's the system that I've adopted for kind of holding all of my sample tobaccos. So in here, what you have is 3 or 4 bowls of tobacco in little Mylar bags. And these are the bags that I choose to keep my samples. Some I have a lot of, some, I really liked it, and so I've smoked a lot. So it kind of varies in terms of how much tobacco is in each one of these samples. This row right here are samples that I have tried, and then this row right here are samples that I have yet to try. So these are all the samples, all the different tobaccos that I would have to buy a tin for if I actually wanted to sample it. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 different tobaccos in here. If I wanted to sample all of these tobaccos, even at just $10 a tin, that would cost me $180. It cost me maybe $14 in shipping costs to ship off tobaccos that I already had in my tobacco cabinet that another YTPC member hadn't tried yet. And they, in return, shipped me a bunch of samples of tobaccos that I haven't tried. And so I found that this is a really good way of trying a lot of tobaccos without the added expense of having to buy the tins all of the time. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this, just so that if you're a new piper, and I say new, I mean, again, within a year, and you've kind of gone through some of those phases, and you're somewhere in the middle of that I'm buying tins phase, that means that you have passed I've bought a bunch of tins, I've sampled them, and I have a bunch of leftover. That means you have an inventory. And if you have any inventory, I guarantee you that you have things in your tobacco cabinet that other pipe smokers have not tried. Specifically other YTPC members have not tried. So a good way to find those people is join House Party. House Party is a great way. There's a bunch of folks on House Party. It's a great way to get to know folks. It's a great way to make friends. And it's also a great way to find other like-minded pipe smokers that are willing to do sample trades. And again, just so you know, the reason that I usually receive my tobacco trades in these baggies, I move them to the Mylar bags. And the reason that I do that is because these Mylar bags are sealable. They're Ziploc, but they're also sealable. So if I decide that, hey, I really like this and I want to save this, I want to see what it does in a year or 2 years, which is the case with several of these on the one side of the ones that I've tried, I can actually take an iron and I can seal this so that it will not get any new air in it, which is the equivalent of putting it in a ball jar. And that way I can save it for a long time. And and see what it does in a year. See if it's something that, maybe I do want to sell her. So again, just a little information for folks that are kind of on the new side within that realm of, I've got quite a bit of tobacco. I've opened several tins. I haven't smoked them all. So I have an inventory. There's probably something in my cabinet that you haven't tried. And so you arrange through communications with another YTPC member, trading, 10, 15, something like that samples. You can do little, you can do a lot. It's up to you. You guys figure that out. But just wanted to make sure that information was out there. I'm sure it is. I'm sure you see it all the time, but you may not realize how valuable of an asset that can be. So that is it for today. Don't forget to, if you're seeing this video, you've got maybe a day, maybe 1 day to get entered into my 300 sub call. And if you like the content, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you do, thank you. If you don't, you're not hurting my feelings. I get it. There's a lot of folks on this YouTube thing. Like I said, if you're enjoying what I'm laying down, then give me a subscribe. Why not? Ain't gonna hurt you. Ain't gonna hurt me if you don't. Either way, I am RoadGlideSully. Keep the rubber side down.